Welcome to the Empower Room for Empowering Moments with your host, Timothy Hughes. Empowering Moments is brought to you by Empower Media, LLC, where we empower you, parents, and the entire community with transformative information to move mind and spirit to a higher state of well-being. So welcome to the Empower Room, and let's get started.
Well, welcome to the Empower Room. It's good to be back with you all on this Sunday. We are grateful to have you with us. And the Empower Room provides empowering moments twice a month on the second and fourth Sundays of the month. And I'm your host, Rev. Timothy B. Hughes in Div. And please like our page and send an emoji, leave a comment, share, and follow us. We really would appreciate that, and I go by Rev.T, so feel free to call me Rev.T. And the purpose of this format is to promote Empower Media, LLC, where we share cultural, civic, and inspirational moments with special guests from all over the world. We're blessed to have had guests from all over the world with us, and we're at a year mark of providing this format and just really grateful for that opportunity to do that. And to tell you a little bit more about Empower Media, Empower Media LLC is a social empowerment entity, and we empower community through social and digital media, but publishing, programs, and speaking engagements. We have over 25 years of experience, and you can check out our website at empowermediallc1.com, and that's MPWR Media LLC1.com. All right, so we look forward to having you check out our website and have some very interesting publications that we would like to share with you at the end of the show. And today we are blessed to have an outstanding guest with us today. I'm just deeply honored to have the guest that we have with us today. And it is none other than Miss Jerroll Saunders, CEO of On Us, and of course, a few other endeavors as well that she will be sharing with us today. And I would like to bring her on at this time. All right, Miss Sanders, how are you?
I am doing great and just very pleased to be
Awesome.
joining you today.
Well, I'm so glad you took the time out of your busy schedule to be with us, especially at this point in time of what's going on in our country, with what's going on with the George Floyd case, and with, of course, Chauvin, who's on trial, is who we really want to discuss, and we definitely lift up our want to keep in prayer George Floyd's family and what they're experiencing, what they have experienced, and what they're experiencing right now, and the witnesses too, from what I've seen in the trial as well, how they are being impacted, and how the Black community, for real, is being impacted by this ungodly act that took place. But I just want to share a little information that I have on you with our audience so they can get to know you a little bit as well. Ms. Saunders' achievements on both the business and social front are more than noteworthy. She possesses an arsenal of skills in marketing and advertising, communications, customer service, sales, and business development, system design, implementation. This is a very heavy system. Okay, she's president and CEO of 4chiefexecutives.com, which is an online portal that caters to chief executive and senior business leaders. This is also, she's the president and CEO of Jireh Consulting Incorporated, the writing company. And she has been involved with offering award-winning writings, trainings, and consulting services to various corporations throughout this country. including corporations such as Anheuser-Busch, the St. Louis Minority Suppliers Development Council. She's also been on boards as far as the Hazelwood School District Board is one that she has been involved with. And she also has run for the Detroit mayor in 2009 and ran a very competitive race there with her run there for the 2009 Detroit mayoral candidate. And what we're going to talk more today about is her involvement with Change is on Us. .org. Changeisonus.org, and I was just introduced to her by a good friend of mine, childhood, and I'm just so honored to be able to have you on with us today to kind of share what you're doing, what Change on Us is all about, and what you have going on. I mean, you have so much going on. I'm just when I looked at your website, I'm like, oh my goodness, you're something else. You're a powerful lady. So I'm really honored to have you on my show. So thank you so
Well,
much for joining us.
well, thank you so much for having me. You speak of Changes on Us. It's actually the organizational name is Onus Inc., which means on us.
Okay.
Changes. And so basically our, I guess, position is, and our goal, mission is resolving longstanding problems that seem too big to fix. And so
Okay.
the policing problem, addressing the policing problem really emanated from a conversation with a very distraught young man after the Ferguson uprising following the killing of Michael Brown. I stood there in the warm, hot streets and watched everything that was, occurring. And I thought, what would happen if we were to apply business principles to social issues? If we were to take ownership of the problem and methodically work out a solution and then work to advance that solution. The young man told me he was crying and said, this can't be fixed. The devastation that is occurring emotionally and psychologically to our young people, it cannot even be explained. I mean, it's terrorism. Not only our young children, but we're all terrorized. When a law enforcement agent rolls up behind you, the question is not whether I'm going to get a ticket, it's will I live past this encounter? And so having had that encounter, I looked this young man in the face and I said, there is a solution for everything and I'm going to find it. I promise you that. And interestingly, this is a very, very intelligent young man. Once I spent a year working on Jireh and crafting it, he agreed that it was the solution. And I say that I spent that year, I basically brought Maxine and some other people, I just met her we were out on the, watching everything that unfolded in the Ferguson protests. And I had met these women who were, in my generation. And I said, we're going to fix this problem. And I said, meet me at a library room. And they came and I announced to them that we were going to do exactly what we've done. Not one person in that room questioned it. We'd all just met. And
Okay.
I laid out a plan. I told them how we would approach this. And basically, week after week, they would convene with me. I would let them know the research. I would show them, just continue to draw a diagram and expand it with new policies. And a year later, we introduced on a national phone call the Uniform Reporting Law Enforcement Improvement Act, which, by the way, resembles, or I should say George Floyd resembles our act because we wrote the act and took it to Congress before the George Floyd Act was ever conceived of. But it looks, it's remarkably, let me say this, it's the first of its kind ever in the way that it sets out the argument for national and state police standards. So what I sought to do is create joint jurisdiction. I didn't want the federal government to have all the power. I didn't want the states to have all the power. And then in that mix, I infused the people. So I say it's citizen control of the police on steroids.
Okay.
And it's national, and it will standardize policing in every community throughout the nation. Because if statistics are correct, then since the George Floyd trial started, there have been about 14 or 15 Black people killed by law enforcement agents around the country, or probably more.
Right. I hear you. All right, and it's the act is called the Uniform Reporting Law Enforcement Improvement Act, right?
Yes, and
okay.
URLEIA, and the short name is the Equality in Policing Act, not to be confused with the Justice in Policing Act, which is what the George Floyd Act was before it was named the George Floyd Act. Our act, right, the Equality in Policing Act, hashtag URLEIA.
Okay, so the Equality in Policing Act is in the shorter title.
The short name.
Okay, awesome.
Exactly.
Okay, the short name. Awesome. Okay. All right. So, what are your thoughts on the trial currently, the Chauvin trial at this time? Do you have any? Have you watched it or kept up with it, or any thoughts in regard to what's going on in regard to this trial currently?
Yes, it's quite compelling. But when I watch trials now, I tend to watch to determine if the legislative proposal we've drafted will actually work. Because you cannot convey justice to a dead man. George Floyd, there is no justice for George Floyd. There are monetary redress for the family. So I think everyone should ask him or herself, so how good would how would it hit you if you're dead? And then basically what happens is everybody sort of, is remunerated because you're dead, because your rights were denied. So here's what I think of the trial thus far. If ever there has been a reason for precise, specific, detailed legislative proposal that extends into every community across the country, the Chauvin trial should reaffirm that. Because we see how easy it is for law enforcement to create and to craft these stories and scenarios that could have the impact of causing one juror to question, the story put forth by the prosecutor, and ask yourself, how many times do you have the prosecutors actually trying to secure the conviction of a police officer? How many times do you have people who are within the law enforcement continuum, the medical examiner, which I think initially the autopsy report was written in a way with the expectation that would be the same kind of pursuit, in that the pursuit to exonerate the officer. But if you look at everything that has occurred in the George Floyd trial, it's pretty much out of the norm. You have a pulmonary expert that volunteered for free, who's one of perhaps the premier expert in the world. I mean, how many people would be privy to that kind of testimony? What would an expert witness of his caliber cost? So the outcome of the George Floyd trial, there should be a guilty verdict. But yet with all that we see, people are still on needles and pins, wondering if the outcome is going to be a just one, even though we looked at it, we watched it, okay?
Right.
And to see how effectively, and I have to give it to the defense attorney, okay? He's saying nothing. He doesn't even have lemons, and he's trying to make some lemonade out of it, okay?
Wow.
Now, it may be an impossible task, but you never know until the verdict is in. So when I look at the George Floyd, the Derek Chauvin trial, I'm looking at it at a different perspective. I'm looking at this testimony, trying to figure out, well, would Jireh take care of that? Would the George Floyd Act take care of that? The George Floyd Act would be completely out of the game here. The Jireh, because of the way it's structured, everyone would have access to the best counsel that they can find.
Interesting. I see what you're saying. Okay. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So, so in relation to the Equality and Policing Act, what are some of the components that you can share with the audience today? I guess maybe some of the ones that maybe are not in the George Floyd Act that you feel would be more comprehensive, or could you share maybe 2 or 3 of those? Or
yes, and I want to make the point that some of these are in the George Floyd Act. They just aren't in the George Floyd Act in the way they need to be in the George Floyd Act. And I'll give you a prime example. With Jireh, one of our real driving forces is to be proactive. We don't want you on the ground hollering, "I can't breathe." We don't want you, someone breaking into your home and shooting you in the middle of the night, unleashing gun fire in your home because they're at the wrong residence or they're looking for a person who isn't there. So what we have, perhaps the most important aspect, is the pattern or practice investigation. Now, most people have heard of that because what happens is when there is a use of force event or a really one that is really challenged, what generally happens is the Department of Justice will descend into a community and begin to investigate the policing entity that used the force. The goal is to determine if that entity has a practice and a pattern of violating the constitutional rights of people of color. Okay. And so they talk to police officers, they talk to community leaders, they go through police files, they hold community meetings and ask people to weigh in on the law enforcement entity. What they're doing is retroactively working to gather a picture of what that policing entity is like by going back and looking backwards. Well, okay, so the George Floyd Act would now require those policing entities to, kind of accumulate, if they have police officers who do wrong things or bad things, to accumulate that data. And every 6 months, send that data to the Department of Justice. And it's sort of voluntary because if they don't do it, the penalty is the threat of losing grant funds like COP funds, etc. Right? So if they don't send information up telling about their buddies in blue who have been mistreating and doing wrong, then they are threatened with losing funding. But how do people in Washington, D.C. know that they're not sending the data when there are 18,000 policing entities, at least local entities across the country? Okay.
Wow.
So what Jireh does is Jireh has a pattern and practice database that would require these law enforcement agents every single stop, every single encounter, every everything they do. Imagine them with a smart device like a telephone, and they have to enter who they stop, when they stop, why they stop them, into that phone that goes right into this place where all this data is kept, minute by minute, day by day. And so you can begin to see, for example, does John Doe seem to stop only Black people in a neighborhood that's 70% white and 30% Black? Or the towings? Does John seem to require that the car is towed every time he stops or arrests someone? Because the towing of a car has a tremendous financial impact to retrieve your car, right? So all of the financial impact, all of the, and by the way, how are those cases dealt with once they go to the local municipal court? One thing that really brought this to me was I got stopped on the freeway in Missouri, and there's this entity called Charlotte. I'm in my little, car and my briefcase coming from my office. And so I have to go over to pay my ticket. I get there, and there are Black people just burgeoning out of this place, right?
Yes,
and
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I sit there, and the fines are like through the roof. And what they do is they allow these people to keep coming back, but every time they come back, they add penalties and interest for their not having this money. Their practices were so bad when the Department of Justice came here and looked at their records. They completely removed them off of the freeway because it was like a seed. They catch Black people and bam.
I remember that. I remember that. Yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah, Charlotte. I mentioned Charlotte in my book. Okay, the physics of money. So what I'm saying is that being able to have this kind of data, I would like to ask everyone in your listening audience, how many people went to the hospital and died after they were stopped by Officer Derek Chauvin? It was clearly what he did to George Floyd was his manner of death. I would bet if we could push the button, as we would be able to do with your Leah, and see all of his encounters, we would see an untold number of individuals who are dead, who were never, it was never identified, right? So who are in their graves because of Derek Chauvin. Now, here's what the Uniform Reporting Law Enforcement Improvement Act would do. It would have a flag. It would say, if we could flag it and say, well, we want to know how many people go to the hospital after they encountered with this officer. And we think the average based on the data says there should be one every year. But yet you've got this officer, beep, 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 beep. Every time he stops somebody, they're going to the hospital. Your Leah will pop that up. And then a local attorney of the person's choosing, of the family's choosing, paid for at the Department of Justice's, at the policing entity's expense, that person could hire a lawyer who could then seek the removal of the law enforcement agent who is problematic. Now, when that agent is found to be problematic, an indicator called an unfit indicator can be set. And so unlike, maybe the officer who killed Michael Brown or other officers, which we don't know where they are. We don't even know if they're in jail. We don't even know what community they're in. Unlike those, guess what? It would set an indicator, and that person cannot work in law enforcement or as a private duty officer ever again in the United States. George Floyd Act, all it asks is that you send data up every 6 months. And then it gives individuals exactly what we in your Leah give people, which theirs would be the right to peruse the database based on what the local entities send up, right? Your Leah, which again introduced this, would give citizens and their attorneys the right to peruse the records and to see what these law enforcement agents are doing. In fact, we all would have access only to a part of the database where we could even put in our own encounters with the law enforcement agents. So just like the Department of Justice uses this as the primary tool to curtail the illegal acts of police, rogue policing entities, guess what? It's the same construct, only rather than proactively, it happens proactively, and it's occurring every day in every city, in every municipality throughout the United States.
Wow, yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, that's true reform for real. That I think that needs to be definitely integrated into the act itself or proposal for sure. So, how has the Equality in Policing Act been received by our political officials and so on and so forth? Have you know you have engaged them with it? How has that response been?
The response has not been what we want. Okay.
Okay.
In fact, we've sat in Cory Booker's office. We've sat in. We've gone to just about every congressman you can imagine. And I had an interesting call with an attorney whom I have the utmost respect for. And I said to him this week, Michael, what is it? Because I presented in front of Congress. We've gone to Washington, to Virginia Beach. We've gone to New Jersey and presented at conventions. Blacks in Government has supported it. We have a lot of support. But the kind of embracing that needs to happen, we've not seen. And so I thought his conversation was interesting. He said, Jerroll, this is an idea that is so massive, so outside of the norm, that elected leaders, just because they're elected, it doesn't mean that they have these brains that can conceive of real solutions to real problems. They're used to a construct. I said, well, tell me this, Michael, who we have these very challenging conversations because I like law. And I like talking with lawyers about law because I have sort of some unique perspectives. And he says to me that, it is the solution. But the problem is they can't get their head around this really big idea. I said, so a people who has been enslaved for over 400 years, we continue to have the same kinds of problems that never seem to get resolved. So we think a bold solution is too much for us to conceive of. And interestingly, I had this challenge in the business environment in corporate America. I had, while I was a manager at AT&T, there were some things I wanted to do that would affect all of the AT&T Bell operating companies, and I was told it can't be done. Well, the next year, everybody was calling me up wanting to know how I did it. So if we're going to get the solution we need big, bold ideas. We need to step outside of the box and remind our listeners that the George Floyd Act was, I think personally, I do believe that our act was harvested. I've seen things in that act that I know I devised that I've never ever seen anywhere else. Okay. And everyone there had it. And it came about pretty rapidly. So I think there were some legislative assistants who went around and grabbed everything they could find on policing, and your Leah happened to be there, and they harvested many provisions of it. But again, remember, those are not usually the people who are affected by policing. It's usually us. And so we have to insist on big, bold ideas to solve our big, bold problems. And policing has been an enormous problem for our community.
Right, and that's a big, bold ideas in just about every aspect of our life, that we need in regard to trying to deconstruct this institutionalized racism that's going on in a lot of these different systems for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what can we do to advocate for this proposal for the Equality in Policing Act?
Ownership. Okay. The volume and the demand for Leah has to become so loud that it can't be ignored.
Okay, I see. I'm with you. I
Okay.
see.
It was interesting to me in Ferguson how individuals who came out of Ferguson, many of them I hardly ever saw on the ground. But the construct was you reach and you pick them, you put them on these boards and you put them on the Obama's policing committee, you put them over here, you give them grant funds. So you use their voices, and they are eloquent speakers, but usually eloquent speakers with no solution. And that's exactly what people want for us, are eloquent speakers who do not upset the apple cart. So what we need to do is take ownership. Okay, organize a march in your city calling for the enactment of your Leah, or even better, saying that you do not want wholesale enactment of the George Floyd Act, because see, they did it again. They took a Justice in Policing Act, they polished it up with George Floyd's name. So people, you know what I'm saying? They shined it up. It's sort of like taking a cubic zirconium and putting a layer of shellac on it to make it even a little more shinier, and telling people you got a diamond. So we are, they have demonstrated they have no interest in embracing your Leah unless we force them to. So every person who has a voice, organize a march, a citywide march for a solution. Don't march against the problem, march for a solution.
I like that. I like that. That's for sure. That's for sure. So, where can people learn more about Yulia, and is there a website that they can get more information from? Be able to look at the act, individually as a group, that type of thing.
Yes, they can go to changeisonus.org. Changeisonus.org, and you will see there's a synopsis as well as the entire complete legislative proposal.
Okay, so changeisonus.org is the location you can go. Okay, .org. Okay, to be able to learn. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. We also I would encourage everyone to follow us on social media, ONUS, and change is on. Yes.
Okay, all right. And on this, you're able to follow on social media. It's ONUS.
Right, right, and change is on us. Look for change is on us.
Change is on us.
Right, and on us.
Got it. ONUS. Got it. Okay, I have it up on our screen. Changeisonus.org is where you can go to get more information in regard to the Equality in Policing Act. I'm so grateful that we have this opportunity to discuss this at this point in time. I guess my last question, do you know where they are as far as the legislative process for the George Floyd Act at this time? Because I know I've been hearing that it was passed, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, by the House or something? And
by the House, yes.
Okay.
And I don't think it's been introduced yet into the Senate. I don't think it has been introduced as of yet. And so that means, and I just want to say that I think we have an opportunity that I think if that act is passed, I think we lose a lot of opportunity. It's about demanding that there should have been listening tours in my mind, whereby the public is given an opportunity to delve into the detail of these acts, right? To compare them. And we saw what happened with the crime control bill when just some big act was passed. We incarcerated literally generations of
Yes.
African
Yeah.
Americans.
Right.
So
Right.
pass
Right.
these legislative proposals because they sound good. That day should be over for the Black community. It's time to do due diligence. And not just the Black community, because white people are killed at an alarming rate by law enforcement agents as well.
True, true, true. Yeah, so we want to encourage everyone to please go to changeisonus.org to learn more about the Equality in Policing Act. Get involved. Let's do some marching. Let's do some calling our legislators. I think would be a good thing to do at this time, especially with it in process. It is evidently been passed through the House in regard to the George Floyd Act and sitting somewhere at this point. So this would be a good time to get into some good trouble, as the Honorable John Lewis would say. All right, to make sure that we are making sure that this is a solution, amen,
Solution.
to what we need. We need a solution. We don't need another band-aid, somebody to say, oh, look what I did, and it didn't do what it was supposed to do. We find that out 10, 20 years down the line, and and there are more casualties. So let's get involved. Let's do what we have to do to make a difference. And I want to thank you so much, Sandra, for coming on with us today, and especially at this point in time. Definitely want to have you come back again into the Empower Room. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And be
Definitely,
safe.
definitely. Okay, okay. We'll be in touch and appreciate your coming on and sharing with us about the act. Really appreciate it.
And remember, change is on us.
Change is on us. I have it up on the screen. Changeisonus.org. Everyone, let's check it out. Let's get involved. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much. You have a blessed rest of the day, and we'll be in touch, sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. God bless.
God bless.
All right. All right. So we've had a very engaging conversation today. I mean, I think that I hope that you were listening and understanding in regard to what they have been putting together. This proposal that was already in the works. Actually, I have heard about this proposal before the George Floyd killing, and before it goes back to the Michael Brown killing in Ferguson. So this is when this proposal was developed out of that tragedy in Ferguson. So please let's make sure we get involved. Look up this Equality and Policing Act that is available on changeisonus.org. Highly recommend you check it out and compare the two for sure. I've had the opportunity to kind of explore it myself and do see that the Equality and Policing Act does go further into providing a viable solution to hopefully prevent what has been happening in our communities, especially to Black and Brown people. All right. So we want to thank you all for being in the Empower Room with us today. We're grateful to have this format. We'll be back with you all in a couple of weeks, and just want to let you know that you can check us out at empowermediallc1.com. We also do have a Twitter page and Instagram page, and our phone number is also on the screen. So feel free to give us a call or reach out to us through our social media outlets. In regard to our publications, I do have a book, In the Blink of an Eye, by yours truly, Rev.T, and is available in paper book and Kindle ebook on Amazon. And you can also go to the empowermediallc1.com store page, and you're able to purchase it by going through that route as well. And we are so grateful to announce that our second issue of the Examiner Quarterly is available now in print. Just came off the UPS truck on yesterday. So we're so grateful to have the second edition of the Examiner Quarterly. It is power packed with wonderful stories. Our cover story is that dealing with opinion, nonviolence, philosophy, and a discussion that I was able to have with Dr. Bernard Lafayette, Mr. Charles Alphen, and Chuck Alphen Jr. as well. So it was very, very good dialogue, and there are a host of really good stories that I think would be of interest to you all. So please check us out. The magazine is also available to order on our website as well. So please check it out at Empower Media LLC1.com, and you're able to purchase one of the magazines if you like, or subscribe to a year subscription of our Empower magazine as well, which is available again on our website. So feel free to go ahead and purchase that on our website, and we look forward to being back with you all in 2 weeks. All right, and look forward to our guests coming on that Sunday as well, and I'm sure you will be empowered by the dialogue we will have in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today. All right, so God bless. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we hope that you have been empowered by what you heard today, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. And please, y'all, make sure you do something. That's our motto, do something. So, hey, in regard to the Equality in Policing Act, let's do something. We have options to be able to get online and share the act with our legislators, and see if we can possibly get marches going and get the word out of how important we need to make sure that the elements within the Equality in Policing Act is in this George Floyd Act for sure. All right. Okay, so God bless you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and we'll see you in 2.
Thank you for joining us in the Empower Room. Hope you have received some impactful information. Please like or leave a comment. See you next week in the Empower Room.